3 days ago, my own son and daughter-in-law looked me in the eyes, smiled, and pushed my husband and me off a 90-foot cliff. But as I lay there broken on the rocks, the worst pain wasn't from my injuries. It was the secret my husband whispered to me in our final moments. Welcome to Folktales Hub. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment where you are watching from. My name is Elena. I'm 60 years old. And I'm here today to tell you a story I never thought I'd live to tell. It's a story about the family I thought I knew, the love I thought was real, and the day that everything shattered. Just 3 days ago, my own son Leo and his wife Chloe looked me and my husband Arthur in the eyes and pushed us off a mountain. As I lay there on those cold, sharp rocks, my body broken, I heard my husband's desperate whisper. It's a sound that will haunt me forever. "Elena," he said, his voice so weak. "Don't move. Play dead." But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst was the truth he told me as we lay there. A secret that had been poisoning our family for 25 years. A truth no mother should ever have to hear. To understand that moment on the mountain, I need to take you back. I need to show you the beautiful picture before it was torn apart. For 40 years, Arthur and I built a life we were so proud of. We lived in a little wooden house right on the edge of a great green forest. Every morning, I'd wake up to the smell of pine needles and Arthur's coffee brewing. I was a teacher at the village school. I loved those kids, coming home each day with stories about them. It filled my heart. And Arthur? Oh, Arthur was a craftsman. He had a workshop in our backyard where he made the most beautiful furniture. His hands, they were strong from work but so gentle. He could take a plain piece of wood and turn it into something magical. A table, a chair, a rocking horse. Each piece was made with so much love. We had 2 sons. Our firstborn was Michael. He was the light of our lives. Always laughing, always helping his dad in the workshop, always checking on me to make sure I was okay. He had a heart of pure gold. Then there was Leo, 5 years younger. Leo was quieter, more serious, but I loved him just the same. A mother's love doesn't pick favorites. You love your children with your whole soul, without conditions. Every Sunday after church, we'd all sit around our big dining table, the first big piece Arthur ever made for us, and we'd talk. Michael would tell us about his dream to become an architect, to design buildings that would touch the sky. Leo would just listen, pushing his food around his plate. Thought he was just shy. Life was simple. It was warm. In the evenings, Arthur and I would walk the trails through the forest, holding hands. We'd talk about our future, about watching our grandchildren grow up, about growing old right there in that little house, surrounded by the trees and the memories. I thought we were a perfect, unbreakable team. When Michael turned 20, I started to notice a change. He and Leo would argue sometimes, in low voices in the hallway. They'd stop the second I walked in. Arthur told me not to worry. "It's just brothers, Elena," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "They'll work it out." I wanted so badly to believe him. I needed to believe our beautiful life was still perfect. But then, one cold night in October 25 years ago, Michael didn't come home for dinner. We waited and waited. The food went cold. Arthur's face grew tight with worry. Leo was in his room, said he was studying. But when I asked if he knew where Michael was, he just shrugged. There was a look in his eyes. A blankness. It scared me, but I told myself I was imagining things. Arthur gathered our neighbors and they went out with lanterns, calling Michael's name into the dark. They searched every path, every clearing. At sunrise they found him. His body was at the bottom of the deep ravine that the river had carved through the forest. The police said it was a tragic accident. He must have slipped in the dark. My world ended that day. I believed them because the alternative, the truth, was too terrible to even consider. The funeral was a blur of black clothes and unbearable pain. I cried until I had no tears left. Arthur held me up, his own heart breaking, whispering that we would get through this together. Leo was so quiet. It felt strange, but grief affects everyone differently, right? That's what I told myself. After we lost Michael, Leo changed. He became more attentive, more helpful. He'd help me with the chores, spend time with Arthur in the workshop. I thought it was his way of healing. His way of trying to fill the empty space his brother had left behind. Oh, how wrong I was. I didn't see it then, but he wasn't healing. He was building a mask. A perfect, loving mask to hide the terrible secret growing inside him. The years passed. The sharp pain of losing Michael softened into a dull ache that we learned to live with. Leo married Chloe, a sweet girl from the next village. They had 2 beautiful children. My grandchildren. I felt like life was giving us a second chance at happiness. Leo took over Arthur's workshop and seemed to be doing well. Chloe would call me Mom and help me in the kitchen when they visited. Everything felt good again. Felt whole. But that feeling, that safety, it was all a lie. A beautiful, carefully painted lie. And I was about to learn that the most beautiful pictures sometimes hide the darkest shadows. The first sign that something was wrong started about 6 months ago. Arthur and I had worked hard our whole lives. We'd saved up a little money, and we owned our house and the land around it. We decided it was time to update our will. It was Leo who brought it up. He sat right here at our kitchen table and said, "Mom, Dad, you're not getting any younger. We need to make sure everything's taken care of. For your sake and for the kids." Sounded so responsible, so loving. Chloe nodded along, holding my hand. "We love you so much," she said. "We just want to make sure you're protected." We went to see our old friend, Benjamin, who was a lawyer. He explained our options. We could leave things to the grandchildren or just do a simple will. But Leo had a different idea. He wanted us to name him and Chloe as the only ones in charge of everything. He said it would be simpler, that they could use the money to take care of us if we got sick. He made it sound so sensible. Arthur, always so trusting, thought it was a fine idea. But something felt off to me. Felt controlling. I remembered how Michael had always talked about taking care of us one day. But Michael was gone. Leo was all we had left. Pushed my doubts down. This was my son. He loved us. So we signed the papers. I remember Chloe gave me a big hug afterward. "Now we're officially a team," she whispered. Her words should have felt warm. Instead, they sent a cold chill down my spine. After that, things changed. Leo and Chloe started visiting more, but it felt different. They weren't coming just to visit. Every conversation turned to money. Our house. Our plans. "Mom," Chloe said one day, running her hand over the countertop Arthur had installed. "This house is so big for just 2 people. Wouldn't you be happier in a little apartment in the village? We could help you move." My heart sank. This house was my home. It was filled with 40 years of memories. The kitchen where I'd cooked for my family. The workshop where Arthur had created his beautiful things. The garden where my children had played. The thought of leaving it felt like tearing my own heart out. When I said no, I saw a flash of something in Leo's eyes. It was quick, but I saw it. Irritation. Maybe even anger. It was gone in a second, replaced by that familiar smile, but it scared me. "You're not being practical, Mom," he said, and his voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "What if you fall? What if something happens? We need to think about what's best for you." But it didn't feel like he was thinking about us. It felt like he was thinking about the house. Arthur started to listen to them. My practical husband thought they were making sense. But I couldn't shake this sick feeling in my stomach. One night after they'd left, I finally asked Arthur, "Doesn't this feel strange to you? Why is Leo so obsessed with our money all of a sudden?" Arthur just sighed. "He's our son, Elena. He cares about us." But I saw a shadow in his eyes. A doubt he didn't want to voice. Now I know. Arthur was already starting to put the pieces together. Pieces of a puzzle I didn't even know existed. The pressure kept building. Then, Leo suggested we give him something called power of attorney. It meant he could legally make all our financial decisions for us. "It's just a safety net," he said, as Chloe nodded like a puppet. "In case you ever get sick and can't manage things yourselves." The way he said it was so smooth, so logical. But it felt like he was putting a leash around our necks. I couldn't sleep that night. I was tossing and turning, my mind racing. The next day I called my sister Clara. Clara has always been the suspicious one in the family. The one who trusts her gut. I told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Elena, does any of this feel like love to you? Leo has a good business. Why does he need so much control over your lives?" Her words hit me like a bucket of cold water. She was right. It didn't feel like love. Felt like a takeover. That afternoon when Leo came over, I decided to be brave. "Leo," I said, my voice shaking a little. "Why is this so important to you? Your father and I are perfectly capable." His reaction was instant. His face went stiff. His eyes got cold. For a single second, my sweet son was gone, and a stranger was staring back at me. "It's not about control, Mom," he said, spitting out the word. "It's about family. It's about responsibility." But the word responsibility sounded like a threat. Chloe jumped in, her voice sweet as poison. "Elena dear, we just want to take these worries off your shoulders." That night, Arthur and I had our first big argument in years. He thought I was seeing problems where there weren't any. I begged him to see what was happening right in front of us. "Arthur," I pleaded, "remember what Leo was like before Michael died. He was different. There was a darkness in him sometimes. I saw it." And then my husband, my strong, steady Arthur, looked down at his hands. And his shoulders slumped. And he said the words that began to unravel everything. "Elena," he whispered, his voice rough with pain. "There are things about Michael's death, things I never told you." The room went silent. I could hear my own heart pounding. "What things?" I asked, barely breathing. Arthur looked up at me, and his eyes were filled with 25 years of guilt. "The night Michael died," he began, "Leo wasn't in his room studying. I saw him leave the house. I followed him. And then, sitting at our kitchen table, my husband told me a story that broke the world I knew into a million pieces. Arthur told me he'd been worried about Leo. He'd been acting strange, angry. So when he saw him sneak out that night, he followed him into the dark forest. He found the two brothers by the ravine. They were arguing, yelling. Arthur hid behind a tree, his heart pounding. "I heard them, Elena," Arthur said, his voice breaking. "I heard Michael accusing Leo of stealing from us. From our family savings account. He had proof. Papers from the bank." I felt the floor drop out from under me. "Stealing. My son." Arthur kept going, the words pouring out like a poison he'd held in for too long. Michael was furious. He told Leo he had to give the money back and tell us the truth, or he would do it himself. Could picture it. Michael. So honest. So good. He would have been so hurt by the betrayal. "And then," I whispered, though I was terrified of the answer. "Leo denied it. He called Michael a liar. They started shouting. And then Leo pushed him, Elena. He shoved Michael hard. I saw it." Michael stumbled back, his arms flailing, and he fell over the edge. A silent scream was stuck in my throat. It wasn't an accident. It was murder. "Why?" Finally choked out. "Why didn't you ever tell me? Why didn't you go to the police?" Tears streamed down Arthur's face. When I got to him, Leo was a mess. He was crying, shaking. He kept saying, "It was an accident, Dad, I didn't mean it, he just fell." He was my son, Elena. My son was begging me for help. And Michael was already gone. I thought I was saving what was left of our family. The weight of his secret, of his choice, filled the room. He had chosen to protect a murderer. His own son. "And the money?" I asked, feeling numb. "Did he pay it back?" Arthur shook his head, a look of utter shame on his face. "No, he never did. And he kept stealing, Elena. Small amounts. For years. I saw it happening and I did nothing. Because saying something would mean admitting what I knew. I was his prisoner. And I made us both prisoners in this lie." The horrible truth washed over me. The perfect family. The loving son. It was all a sick joke. Leo had killed his brother. And he had been stealing from us, his own parents, for years. But Arthur wasn't finished. "There's more," he said, his voice grim. "I've been looking into Leo's business lately. It's not doing well. In fact, he's about to lose everything. He's deep in debt." He showed me papers he'd hidden. Numbers. Loans. Leo was drowning. And our money, our house, our deaths, were his only way out. "Chloe knows," Arthur said. "I'm sure of it. Listen to how she talks about our life insurance. Our will. They're not just planning to take our money, Elena. They're planning to make sure they get it." That's when the phone rang. 'Twas Leo. His voice was so cheerful it made my skin crawl. "Hi, Mom. Listen, Chloe and I were thinking. For your anniversary next weekend, let's do something special. Let's all go hiking up to Eagles Point. We can have a picnic, take some photos. A perfect family day." My blood turned to ice. Eagles Point. It had a famous, deadly cliff with a 90-foot drop. I looked at Arthur, and I saw the same terror in his eyes. We had just been invited to our own execution. We had to pretend to agree. We knew if we said no, they'd just find another way. Another accident. At least on the mountain we might have a chance. The next few days were a nightmare. We had to smile and act excited while planning how to survive our son. Arthur decided to record everything on his phone. "If we live, we'll have proof," he said. "And if we don't, maybe someone will find the truth." The night before the hike, we didn't sleep. We just held each other in the dark. "If something happens to me," Arthur whispered, "I need you to know that these 40 years with you have been the best of my life. I love you more than anything." I cried quietly, memorizing the sound of his breathing, the feel of his hand in mine. I was saying goodbye to the life we thought we had, and preparing for the horror that was coming. Saturday morning was clear and sunny. Felt like the world was mocking us. Leo arrived early, whistling. "Ready for your adventure?" he called, his smile not reaching his eyes. Chloe was there with a backpack full of snacks and a brand new camera. "I want to capture every moment," she said. Her excitement felt like a razor blade. The car ride to the mountain was the longest of my life. They played happy music and sang along. I sat in the back, holding Arthur's hand, his phone secretly recording in his pocket. When we got to the trail, my heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst. Every step felt like I was walking to the gallows. Leo led us on a path that got steeper and more dangerous. "The view is supposed to be amazing from the top," Chloe chirped, always pointing her camera. After an hour, we reached a narrow side path leading to a sharp cliff. This was it. This was the place they had chosen. "Let's go up here for photos," Chloe said, her voice a little too eager. The climb was tough. The rocks were loose. Leo helped us up, his grip on my arm feeling more like a trap than assistance. When we got to the top, the view was breathtaking. You could see the whole world from up there. And you could see the deadly drop straight down. "Over here," Chloe directed, positioning us right on the edge. "I want the valley in the background." Leo moved behind us. I could feel him there, calculating. "Perfect," Chloe said, raising her camera. "Now smile." And in that moment, I saw the mask fall. The kindness vanished from her eyes, replaced by something cold and hungry. "Smile," she said again, her voice flat. "This will be the last picture you ever take." And then Leo lunged. Leo shoved us with all his strength. But Arthur was ready. At the very last second, he grabbed Leo's wrist and pulled him forward. "If we're going," Arthur roared, "you're coming with us." For a terrifying second, all four of us were tangled together, teetering on the very edge of the world. Chloe screamed and tried to grab Leo, but the weight was too much. The ground crumbled under our feet. And then we fell. The air was ripped from my lungs. The world became a blur of sky and rock, spinning wildly. The sound of the wind was a scream in my ears. Felt like forever. Felt like no time at all. Then impact. Crushing, shattering pain. I heard the awful sound of my own bones breaking. I felt something warm and wet, my blood soaking through my clothes. The pain was everywhere, a fire burning through my whole body. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I was sure I was dying. And then, through the ringing in my ears, I heard it. The whisper. Elena. It was Arthur. His voice was weak, ragged with pain. Don't move. Play dead. Play dead. The words cut through the agony. He was alive. And he had a plan. With a strength I didn't know I had, I forced my body to go completely still. I made my breathing so shallow it was invisible. Play dead. A few feet away I heard groaning. Leo and Chloe had survived the fall too. Chloe. Are you okay? Leo's voice was strained. My leg. I think it's broken, she moaned. What about the old people? The old people. Not mom and dad. Just the old people. The obstacles. I heard Leo crawling toward us. I could feel his shadow over me. My heart was beating so loudly I was terrified he would hear it. They're dead, he announced after a moment. His voice was cold. Me. Both of them. It's over. Good, Chloe replied, and I could hear the relief in her voice. It worked. Now we don't have to pretend anymore. They started talking, planning their story. They would say it was an accident. Loose rock. They would be the heartbroken survivors. They practiced their lies right there next to our dead bodies. It was the most horrible thing I have ever heard. Eventually they started crawling away, leaving us for dead. When their voices faded, Arthur whispered my name. Elena, are you okay? I'm here, I whispered back. I'm hurt, but I'm here. He told me his leg was broken, his ribs were too. We were both in terrible shape. Arthur tried his phone, but there was no signal. We were trapped. And then, in that cold, rocky grave, with the light fading from the sky, Arthur told me everything. The whole, awful truth he had carried for 25 years. He told me how Michael had confronted Leo about the stolen money. How Leo had flown into a rage. How the push was no accident. It was murder. He described the look on Leo's face that night. Not sadness but panic. He told me how he had become Leo's silent partner in the lie, watching him steal from us year after year, too afraid of the truth to ever stop him. I cried as I listened. I cried for Michael. I cried for Arthur, living with that guilt. I cried for the son I thought I had, who never really existed. Just as he finished, we heard voices. Distant shouts. Leo and Chloe had found help. Rescue teams were coming. The phone, Arthur whispered urgently. It recorded everything. We have their confession. But if they find us alive now, they might destroy the evidence before we can tell anyone. We had to keep pretending. It was our only hope. We heard the rescuers rappelling down. I felt a man's hands check my neck for a pulse. I held my breath. This one has a faint pulse, he yelled about Arthur. The woman. I'm not sure. We need a medic down here now. They loaded us onto stretchers. The whole time I had to be a statue. I heard Chloe sobbing perfectly for the rescuers. It was so fast. A rock just gave way, she cried. In the helicopter, a paramedic leaned close to me. Ma'am, if you can hear me, hold on. We're almost there. His voice was so kind, so full of real care. It was the first genuine thing I'd heard in so long. At the hospital, everything was chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed around us. I had to keep up the act. But a young nurse, Sarah, was checking my monitors. She saw something strange. My vital signs were stronger than they should have been for someone supposedly unconscious. She leaned close to my ear. Ma'am, she whispered. I know you can hear me. If you are in danger, move your finger. With every bit of strength I had left, I moved my index finger. I gasped. Oh my God. You're pretending. She leaned in again. If the people who brought you here are the danger, move your finger 3 times. I did it. 3 times. I saw the understanding dawn on her face. She nodded, her eyes wide. Hold on, she whispered. I'm getting help. She left and returned a few minutes later with the doctor and 2 police officers. "Ma'am," the doctor said softly. "You're safe now. Can you open your eyes?" Slowly, so slowly I opened them. The light was blinding. The relief was overwhelming. "My son," I rasped, my voice raw and unused. "My son and his wife, they pushed us." The police officer, Detective Miller, listened as I told him everything. Then he went to see Arthur, who was waking up. Arthur gave him the phone. "It's all on there," he said. "Their confession." While the police listened to the recording, Leo and Chloe were in the waiting room, playing the grieving family for everyone. They had no idea their game was over. Detective Miller came back, his face serious. "The recording is clear," he said. "We have everything we need. We're arresting them now." Through the window I saw it happen. Officers surrounded them. "Leo and Chloe Grant, you are under arrest for the murder of Michael Grant and the attempted murder of Elena and Arthur Grant." I saw the shock on their faces. Panic. Then the masks completely fell away. They started screaming at each other. "It was all his idea," Chloe shrieked. "You liar. You planned it," Leo yelled back. They turned on each other like animals, their perfect lie crumbling to dust right there in the hospital waiting room. It was over. The weeks that followed were a blur. Police questions, lawyer visits, news reporters calling it the cliffside betrayal. We learned the full, ugly truth. Leo's business was bankrupt. He owed money to dangerous people. Our deaths were his only way out. He and Chloe had been planning it for months. They'd even recorded our conversations to see if we suspected them. The trial was the hardest part. I had to sit in a courtroom and look at my son. I had to see the cold stranger he had become. I had to listen to his lawyers try to make excuses for the unforgivable. When it was my turn to speak, I looked right at him. "Leo," I said, my voice steady even though my heart was breaking. "I don't know who you are, but the boy I raised died a long time ago. You are not my son." He showed no remorse, no emotion, nothing. The jury found them both guilty. They are in prison now, for the rest of their lives. Arthur and I finally came home. The house felt different. The memories were still there, but they were shaded with sadness now. The happy times were mixed with the painful truth. But we are alive. And we are together. And for the first time in 25 years, there are no more secrets between us. The truth, as painful as it is, set us free. Our biggest focus now is our grandchildren. Leo and Chloe's 2 beautiful, innocent children. They were so confused, so lost. They didn't understand why their parents couldn't come home. We are now in the process of adopting them. They deserve a chance. They deserve to be raised in a home filled with real love, not the poisonous kind their parents offered. We tell them stories about their Uncle Michael. We tell them about his good heart, his laughter, his kindness. We want them to know what real love looks like. Every night when I tuck them into bed, I tell them I love them. And I mean it with every piece of my shattered but healing heart. This isn't the happy ending I dreamed of for my family. There's too much pain for that. But it's an ending where goodness finally won. Where the truth was stronger than the lie. The picture of our family is forever changed. It's cracked and mended. You can still see the breaks if you look closely. But the new picture, the one we're building now with our grandchildren, it's built on a foundation of honesty. And that makes it stronger than the perfect illusion ever was. I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about trust. It's about safety. It's about choosing to love, even when you've been hurt. Especially then. So, if you take anything from my story, let it be this. Trust that feeling in your gut. If something feels wrong in your family, don't ignore it. Talk about it. Shine a light on it. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than the most beautiful lie. And love, real love, doesn't push you off a cliff. It's the hand that pulls you back from the edge.